So, second half. Just to remind you, we've got Matt, Morrison, and I'll come back to in a minute, followed by Peter Reese, then there'll be a coffee, and then there'll be the last. By the way, outside, if you haven't had it, there's a list of participants which you can take. And second, there are some mugs, which we are keen you should have. If you need something to wrap them up in, some of the bag behind. You're very welcome to check for those. Okay, so here we are in the third session. Matt's going to keep us all awake. Matt's background is he's a principal at MediaZar, advisory service in the Senior Council of Asian Marketing Tech Businesses. And his session is entitled Social Media and Analytics, What's the State of the Art Today? Where should you be spending money to achieve your goals? So, over to you. Oh, and I have to read the health warning, just to remind everybody that the views expressed by the speakers are their own, and neither their employees nor the Workshop Company of Information Technology and its subsidiaries are responsible for them. Matt, with that, over to you. Thank you very much.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm now at MediaZar, which is my own sort of consultancy. But before that, I spent 20 years working in digital marketing. It means that I am the kind of person who really likes new things and gets excited by new technology. And about, I'm not sure how long ago I began to realise I couldn't keep up. And that this was a trend and it was going to get worse. And today I find this most easily expressed by, do I have a Meerkat account yet? Do I have I am on Snapchat. I'm beginning to get to the point where I haven't got a clue why. More to the point, I haven't got a clue why people are using them, and for an advertising person, it's terrifying. It's a really bad sign. So when I began to realize these things were multiplying very, very fast, and they were much faster than success could keep up with them in most cases. So I transmuted my love of technology and new things more and more into a nerdish obsession with data, which allowed me to continue to innovate and find new things and all the rest of it, but to limit the number of platforms I had to even think about, and need to have the data at my fingertips to say things like, well, that's not worth doing, or better, that's not worth doing yet. So I've been messing around with data and for an awfully long time now, and I'm afraid this is going to be the most nerdish presentation that you are going to see. Well, this year, it's coming up the end of this year, so I can probably say it. So please bear with me. This is what my bosses thought I did. They thought I delivered insight. They saw these perfect insights sort of, gliding across the still face of the water. What they didn't realise is that something like 90% of the swan is actually hidden by the water, I think. And that is what I spend my time doing. I spend my time mostly getting stuff wrong. Mostly I am looking at things and not finding an answer, and I am trying to find value where there is none. And that's the value of people like me. And I'm afraid it's the value of many of the people here is learning that things are wrong, and knowing when they're wrong is really massively important. You just don't have to tell anyone. Focus on this bit. And so, when it comes to the social media listening, social media analytics, a lot of what I'm going to try and tell you today is how I find out things are wrong, how I have discovered nothing, what the problems are, and I'm hoping that this will chime some kind of chord with some of you. It's like, yeah, no, I've always thought that. So we'll see. So the first thing is I'm probably not really going to talk too much about the actual analytics side of things. This is your Facebook analytics over here. That's Heineken's page. We have 12.9 million page likes. And this is Topshop's their Twitter analytics. All very useful. Big numbers that mean nothing by comparison with everything else. I mean, if I take that Facebook has 1 billion active users every day, that's a big problem. Competing TV number. But I had to persuade my clients to take money out of TV advertising and put it into digital advertising. That was my job, and I had to give them the kind of arguments that that didn't leave them going and just looking at me in a pitying sort of way. What's interesting about social media generally that you have never had before is that you now have real information back from people. You used to have really good information about who's visiting your site, really good information from Google about what they were looking for. But you didn't. We were targeting ideas, targeting search, we were targeting content needs, we were targeting all these sorts of things we were doing. And what we had, email was good, because email was people. But what we have now is Facebook. And Facebook, when I'm on my phone, and when I'm on my computer at home, and when I'm on this laptop here, I am the same person as far as I'm concerned. And they can follow me around the web, and they can see what I do, and it's amazing. So this is a very simple thing I did, which is I look to see who loves theatre. I'm trying to make this as relevant. It's really most of this isn't technically relevant to, but this is. I tried to fit it to the audience. And as a theatre lovers, there's 6 to 7 million people in the UK who say they love theatre. I hope you're. Well, I would have done poetry had I known. But excuse younger. So strongly female, less male. Okay. You get all these things. It's kind of nice, and then you get right down to what jobs they have. Well, a lot of them they massively over-index for people who work in education and librarians. So does that ring true? Oh gosh. And then there's you lot after librarians and the teachers. There's you, which is not so. You only over-index a bit. Apparently, not all of you love spirit. That is poetry. And then it drops rapidly down to there's the lawyers because they can afford to go. So what's interesting about this though is you can take this into what Facebook knows about its audience, but if you put Facebook's cookie on your site, which it's free, do it anyway, please. Just do it because in 6 months' time you'll call me and say, why did I put that? But in the meantime, what you can do is you can take your traffic and you can compare your traffic, the people who come to your site, who could not be more your customers or prospective customers, and you can compare them to what Facebook knows about it. So you can take your audience, create your own audience of people who visited my site who have Facebook accounts, which is frankly 85% of them, because teachers get weird. And for obvious reasons, teachers don't always love to have Facebook accounts. It makes sense why they wouldn't. You can begin to profile your audience, and this is free. You don't have to give Facebook money for this, although obviously they are hoping that somewhere down the line you will already realise how well you can target your people there. You've got to have some kind of a business process in mind for you to have any value. I'm not going to take you through these. This is what I do. I draw really sort of odd flowcharts for people, and then we measure what works at each stage, and then we can see where goes to that nice point of ROI and things like that. Okay, it helps. I'm not going to answer your question because I won't have time because I don't get to answer them. Right, I'm going to do this one, which is a lovely. Here is a perfect example of analytics data being put to great use. Somebody posted this infographic, I love, of how to share what. Facebook, whatever you do, share between 1 o'clock in the afternoon and between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. But on Pinterest, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. This will get you the most engagement. Don't take a photo, please don't take a photo. Seriously. People build these great tools about these kind of data, which tell you, so Buffer, which is actually a really good tool to use, has this nice thing where it looks and tries to work out when your followers are most likely online so that you can get more and more reach by publishing when they are online. This is follow along, sorry, this is first follow along. But you need, and this is Buffer. Buffer is, that is, anyone want to comment on this graph? In fact, it's very bumpy, isn't it? Is it suspiciously bumpy?
Very.
Yeah. That just looks like they haven't really cleaned their data properly, doesn't it? This is why it looks like one exceedingly strong tweet of mine has somehow skewed the numbers that say that 8 o'clock is the best time for me to tweet. Anyway, I got suspicious anyway, and I pulled all my tweets and saw how many impressions I was getting on each of them, and I've actually, time today, I'm using box plots. People either love box plots or don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. This tells me the white area is what you focus on more or less, and it's also when the little black lines tell you sort of, what the median reach is for each hour a day. It doesn't really. There's 9 o'clock where it looks like there's just not enough data there to be sure. So I took the top shots data. There's no difference. Post any time of day between morning and afternoon, and you're probably fine. There is nothing. So all these people who are sending you the answer to this question, they haven't really, I would strongly suggest, thought about it, or if they have, they thought, well, I can sell this. Because people are going to ask this question and they're not really going to want to know the answer, they just want to know their company answer. Anyway, so that's why we talk about analytics, which is great, because I'm about 12 minutes in and got all good. I'm going to cover this stuff instead of social listening reports. Does any of you do social media listening reports? Really, none of you? This is amazing. You're like a fresh audience. It's kind of perfect for me. You're not ashamed of your heads and not your heads so sadly, but you are going to miss out on a huge amount of wasted money. Great. So I interviewed all these people before I came here to see you. In fact, I was there last night. It's Lego. So and I asked them lots of different questions, and what we found was that on the whole, they didn't care. Who reads them? Ha 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 ha. That was what one person actually said. Everyone produces them. All these big companies, they all produce them. It costs about £2,000 a month minimum, or a person, and nobody does them. They haven't changed in the past 5 years. That suggests that nobody cares. Everything else in our business has changed radically in 5 years. They're not related to key business objectives. This was sort of, and these were all from people who were paying for them. We shouldn't be looking at social listening aside, okay, it should inform other people, of course, well, fair enough. This is a strong one here. We need to use other sources of data. Stop looking at Twitter. We'll show you that in a moment. No one understands how hard it is to work with unstructured data. Actually, that's true. So unstructured. We're talking about unstructured and structured for a moment. Structured data is numbers. How many people liked your post? How many people visited your site? How many people bought something? There's things which you can graph easily. Unstructured data is what they said about you. And yes, you're going to have such a good start on everything else. this all comes down to nobody cares, ultimately. It's just not a science, nothing's repeatable. Our teams tweak their billions. Does that mean anything to anybody other than the IT team? No, tweaking your billion is a very, very important thing. And the graphs are on. They all have the same graphs, they're all meaningless. It's again, something else. This is difficult. It's been 5 years. We should have something better, I know. Than the word cloud. You'll recognize word cloud when you see massive overrepresented. People forget that social media mentions underrepresented responsible. People who say nice things about you or say nasty things about you on Twitter does not mean that you can, stop doing market research. They're often crazy bad people. Making my life horrible. So my whole thing was having better, better data sources, better use cases, better data, So these are workflows. You recognise these. I have. Does anyone see the workflow? So this is seriously, honestly, this is the de facto visualization for unstructured data. We take a huge text, say the complete words of Shakespeare, and we turn it into this. Somebody memorably called them the mullet of the internet. What's extraordinary is he said that 8 years ago, and it's still there. This is me looking at the same, because nobody ever does this, nobody ever bothers to put these things side by side. And the moment you do it, it's like, look, it's just the same stuff. There is no difference. What we get from our reports is from every month we get more or less the same as last month. That's, we don't identify trends, we don't identify seasonality, we're not looking at the kind of information that might be useful with just ticking a box. Having our Vine strategy. Everyone on Vine? Anyone on Vine? One person on Vine, 2, 3, excellent. But with no Snapchatters. The other de facto thing you get is this, which is the time series graph, which looks really important. And it always has. Something always has done this. Yeah, they've looked at the peak and they've called it out. Something odd happened here. What was it? It was, again, it's what we're missing. We're missing the fact that here you can clearly see that they're actively drops on weekends. Nobody cares about that. Why does it have to be dropped on weekends? Because
no one's in the office.
No one's in the office. Who's in the office?
The parents in the office.
There you go. That's what it is. What this is saying is people are not talking about you unless you're talking about yourself. It's exactly right. It's exactly what that says. But they are completely missing this. That's probably my favourite one because that was really expensive. Here's just like breaking down a work plan. I took the data behind this. I took that, and these are the raw data. As a community professional, great, good people, something company. Here is if you can always use a bar chart, or it is like the ideal way of presenting information. However, what it tends to show you is how little information there is. It really is. There's a complete sidebar. Pie charts are the enemy. But there is, even with it is hard to interpret this. What people like about it, what people, professionals like me, enjoy about this, is that when I show it to a client, it's like a Rorschach ink. Let's say that like this. It's like an ink plot. People interpret them, but that's the basic. There is nothing to interpret. This is a relatively good way of doing it. You manually store everything. You try and work out. You try and tell a story using this. Here's my favourite pie chart. This was a real one. This is a real pie chart that went to a real client, who went Weight Watchers, and it said, and here's where your traffic, here's where your mentions are. Amazing. All the stuff here was actually really sort of like, it had interesting qualitative statements. It was from things like diabetes.co.uk, Diabetes Forum, from UK Muscle.co.uk, people on there talking about Weight Watchers, bodybuilders talking about using Weight Watchers, and all these things you could really get to. Money-saving expert, who are amazing, all really high-quality content over here. But what do we focus on? We focus on Twitter, because Twitter is big and free. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to talk about things. Can I have just a very quick show of hands from everybody who's heard of sentiment analysis? Not as many as you think. I think I'm about to be bursting a big balloon, and it's just not quite as inflated as I anyway, this is a while back. This is the middle of last year. Facebook. This is mentions of using Twitter data. Facebook mentions of the Facebook newsfeed. Something happened. This is my spike. Something happened here. The spike comes from the fact that Facebook had decided that they were going to do an experiment on some of their users, say, a million. They were going to show 1 million people mostly happy stories, and one set of people mostly unhappy stories. And they were going to see what the effect was on how people responded. Did they come back to Facebook the next day? Did their usage increase or tail off? And they found on the whole that people who got happy stories, came back, which newsreaders could have told you a long time ago. But it was a nice bit of experiment, published in a really respectable publication. And this is what people said. Here I'm using the taglines. They were not happy. That's mostly what people said. I am not happy with Facebook doing this to me. I don't see why Facebook should be experimenting with people. Anyway. Facebook tinkers with users' emotions. That was there's a lot of there were words like manipulated. Oh yes, they used the word manipulated in their presentation. Scientists use words like manipulated to mean something scientific, but journalists read the word manipulated completely differently for some reason. Anyway, so there's this whole sentiment thing, people, sentiment tweets, a more powerful driver of sales than reach or volume alone. Who said this? Deloitte said this. They were paid by users, but no, they said this. Those tweets led to that much uplift. There are agencies who say things like, "We want to release a positive buzz around your brand." I might have said that at some point. Now it's going to be these like that. Here's a case study from them. They see a 233% increase in. Do they even have an agency? I mean, people have agencies. Don't let them report percentages. Really, it's just call them out on that. Publishers everything, that publisher nothing and fair with anything publishers see. But the reality is this. The reality is the sentiment analysis isn't great. And when I started doing this whole stuff, I thought this was amazing. I'd see into my audience's mind and literally get to see what they think of me, which not to be so great. If you think about how you set up a sort of what you're looking for, not just the volume, you don't know who are they, do they have authority in space? Are they, for example, an important theatre critic? What are they talking about? How relevant is it to me? And what they think. That is interesting. So this is I'm going to present again, high culture. Mrs. Brown's boys. I took 4 different tools, and I got 4 different measurements of exactly the same data. On the whole, positive, but these are seriously all the same data. How is it done? Well, it even probably isn't. There was no stipulation about copywriting these, was there?
We don't worry about copyright.
And I have to know that it's been filmed, and now I'm worried.
I remind you, waive your right to the
I
Chatham House rule.
as I walk in, exactly right.
So if you get sued on your head.
Three main approaches to addressing sentiment, which we're working out whether sort of something is nice or nasty. Lexical analysis, where we just single pane classification, and manual. I should take you through all three. Lexical analysis is literally you have a list of words, and somebody says if they are positive or negative. So have a few, and there are different groupings and different people, and some of them, bigger lists than others. So I built a really, really quick and dirty sentiment analysis tool. Here it is. This presentation is good. It's got the word good in it. Good is positive. Positive. This person is bad. This person is no good. Well, it's got the word good in it, so it must be positive. This presentation is useful. That's a chocolate teapot. Useful's good. Chocolate's good. We really have problems. What is interesting is that Facebook used this technique when they were doing the positive negative sort of social sort of experiment. Not how I roll. The alternative is classification. Classification is you find a list of positive things, and you say list of positive, and you train a machine to recognize it. And then you find that, so you train a machine to recognize negative things, and then anything which doesn't fall into those is neutral. And you don't have to remember this, there is no exam. But that's sort of, a massively oversimplified representation of classification. Here is a classifier. This presentation is good. It is probably, so said again, we're 70% sure that it's positive, which is good. This presentation is bad. You've got it negative. 80% sure it's negative. This presentation is not good. It's pretty sure that this is negative. It's gone with negative. It's 60% sure. So this is weird, it's probabilistic, but it's better than we've been clinically surprised boys in. Without doubt, the best comedy show I've ever seen. I've seen it once, by the way. Has any of you seen it? It's all the way through. Interesting. So here, this is obviously this here is obviously one star. I love these things where you have reviews with stars on them because then you can actually see whether it's positive or not. So that came in right. This one, how about that one? Is this positive or negative? The pity and anger for the suffering children who've been abused is finally balancing against the pain of the good priest who've done nothing wrong with the truth. High noon. Carves images on your soul. And this is hardcore. Next one that would fail. And this gets it right. It gets it right. It's amazing. It's positive. It's kind of 50% sure it's gone on its loads. It's fallen over somehow onto the positive side, which I think is amazing that it did that well. So I just want to show you to demonstrate something here. Taking the original text and randomizing the word order, and then I'm testing it again. It's still come in positive. Catholic reminds by live film for their finding its pain abuse. It is nonsense. The computer is not reading the text. Here's another one, and the are being condemned. Still coming, in fact, slightly more positive this time result. And here, with pity nowadays, this and that, positive. It is not, word order makes no difference. It is not understanding the text. The computer can't understand what's being written. And that's still a bit sci-fi. Google's getting close, but not that bad. It's a bit domain specific. If I take it out, because it's been trained on films, that one, if I take it out into a different language, which is very high value to me, would be sort of financial trading information, it really isn't it. How Tesco PLC's share price could double, that's negative. It just doesn't really say. So it's kind of domain specific. So you need to have classifiers which are trained on the kind of copy that you are receiving. So if you are trying to find out whether customer reviews are positive or negative without the stars, you need to train on customer reviews. If you're trying to find out theatre reviewers, you probably need a different classifier because customers and theatre reviewers will use different language a lot of the time. Are they called customers? What do you call them? What's something comes to the theatre? A theatre goer? Audience. Like the actual real audience. Like I say audience and you have a proper audience. So I've been very worried about the computer. So it's not great. What about human markers? So here we go. I'm having an uncomfortable poo, or I like to do this, and I go around Morrison. Broken Glass, perfect, was the worst film. So people are, it's easy. So I took a different category. I took Session of Ireland, probably. Is Guinness good for you? I took 50 positive and 50 negative tweets as scored by a classifier, and I ran them through human markets. You can do this. There are marketplaces where people will do very, very small jobs for tiny amounts of money. I had 300 judgments. I had 3 people judge each one. Is that right? 10, yeah. So it cost me about $10. Just people doing this. It's amazing. We used to use this sort of stuff for, when you put photographs, people take a photograph of themselves and it goes up on the screen behind them in Times Square or on in Piggly Circus. Have you seen that kind of thing? You take a photograph, you send it to you send it here, and boom, up it appears behind you. The problem we found as an industry very quickly, I thank God, we found this out before I had to do it for real, is that people take nasty photographs and put them up. It takes one teenage boy, and that's all we did. And you have really quite serious sort of exposure. And so we use these people to say, is it something junk or isn't it? Is it a nice, smiley, group photograph? Yes. Yeah, you still end up with problems where people put group photographs of King John in, but it's still fine. So results. Classifier said 50% were negative, 50% were positive. The manual things, there were actually 47 were positive. Not sure about 30 of them, 23 were negative. Really didn't massively agree. So just people scoring these things didn't agree at all. It's not always easy. These are problem ones for people. People score these positive and negative. I actually have no idea what the person was saying. But on the other hand, he's on for it today. He's 70, he's doing okay. Okay, I'm going to test for you guys. If you think this is positive, I'd like you to go, you don't have to make the noise, but I'd like you to go, woo! And if you don't like it, then you go, go. So, if you're negative, positive. Go. Oh, that's amazing. I have never seen that much agreement from one audience. I mean, you guys can't see it, but actually you more or less all agreed that it was negative. If you were Apple, that would be very positive.
We work in an industry where we don't like cues.
Our cue is not a sign of popularity. People just join. In Russia, people used to join cues because there was a queue, because there must be something. Surely that if there are big enough numbers, you can just round yourself out. You got millions of people on the internet. They're all tweeting. You might be getting these odd examples where it's wrong or it's right. Here's it. Right. So they put out this survey, 1936 election, and it was between this chap, Alf Landon, and Roosevelt to make president. None of you's heard of Alf Landon, so you know what the answer is. But the Literary Digest, who were a huge and massively important magazine at the time, interviewed 2.5 million people, and they said that Landon was going to win by sort of 57%, with 57% of the vote. Gallup sampled only 50,000 people, was his great moment, and said that Roosevelt was going to win. Actually, Roosevelt had a pretty landslide for the president. What went wrong? Well, partly, Gallup phoned people, and he sampled the audience, and he came up with a representative sample, and he made sure these were adjusted, and he did lots of small samples, and it worked. The idea of a small representative sample and sort of regular sampling gives you access to truth. Big numbers don't necessarily give you access to truth because there is still a weird sample bias here. It was people who were like to take this, so what they used, in fact, they used car registration, people who had cars and people who registered, who had registered phones. So they were quite wealthy anyway. And it just didn't work for them. So statistically, quite recommendations. Don't be fooled by fans. It doesn't matter whether people like you or not. What matters is whether people are buying tickets. If they hate you and buy tickets, then you. And the Daily Mail, who were applying for a while, if you were to look at their sentiment analysis, on the whole, Daily Mail is not loved in social media. Nonetheless, their business is fine until, well, finish. Don't let sentiment become hate you. You haven't, so that's, so here is the last. I may be very negative, I'm sorry, but I have 3 minutes left. But feel free to ask questions as we're going. What should I don't really have any answers to this. First of all, just live and learn to accept that there is no such thing as accuracy in social media. Does everyone recognise this image, by the way? My wife said that none of you would because you know. Yeah. The Matrix. Thank you. Yes, that's Keanu Reeves. Or moody, or possibly joyful. You can't really tell. Where Keanu Reeves. And there is no scoop, but it doesn't matter. Just don't think that you're going to get some amazing picture out of this. You need to have some plan for why you're going to use these data. I have one client who waits for important people, as in judged by having more than 1 million Twitter followers, to tweet about them, and when they do, they're getting story out of it. Happens maybe twice a year, but they know what they're going to do. This is a lovely thing. Carlsberg responded to the Are You Beachbody Ready campaign, which was getting lots and lots of traction in social media, with the Are You Beer Body Ready, which was brilliant because when they wanted photographs of it. What they didn't do was do some clever social media campaign. They did an out-of-home campaign which people could take photographs of and share in social media, which is much smarter. Real world always comes digital if you can do stuff there. All of you have venues. And real people doing tremendous stuff. Be very selective about don't listen to Twitter. Don't just listen to everyone on Twitter. Create a list of create a list of whatever actors and listen to what they're saying. ignore most of Twitter because most of it isn't relevant to you. Just think about it literally. Wikipedia is still where most journalists will go for most stories first, which is shameful, but interesting. Look at what's happening there. I mean, how many of you check your Wikipedia pages regularly? Keep an eye on when it's changed? Yeah, that's impressive. I mean, it's just selfie. And this is where it's going to get really weird. Look at forums and boards. People that stuff that happen on forums and boards, not represented on the whole internet, but some really good positive insight there. This will be a bit where we get to it really early. I'm sorry. Just try and hold on, and I'll go fast. First of all, every single social media listening tool gets their data from the same places. More or less, if you want Twitter data, you have to go to it. You get news data over here, and it's cheap. It is, you can buy it relatively cheaply. You can go to the APIs and actually pull the stuff down yourself. I'm guessing that nobody in this room will do this, but you may have access to people who do. And if you don't have access to people who do, there are wonderful people in Eastern Europe who will do this for you for $100. So, as long as you can specify the code with what you need doing, you can write. These are scripts. These are tiny tools to get data out of this into a spreadsheet. But you have to know what you want, what you're waiting for, what you're looking for. You have to know what you're searching for and what you'll do when you hear it. Or you can build your own web scrapers. Here is an easier way of doing it where there's a tool called Importio, which I'm not recommending that you get, but I was able to get all the reviews of, again, high culture, 50 Shades of Grey, and I was able to get all the reviews from all the people and their name, when they did it, how far they rated it, what they said. What did they say? They said some extraordinary things. You will in these weird little databases, and you can then plug in. So learning how to query these data is interesting, exciting for some of you. There are all these low-cost analytics APIs that let you do these things, that you do classification, that you sort of let you run sentiment analysis. I'll show you sentiment analysis example here. Fabulous. Tribe, neutral. Subtle, erotic, not neutral. Shockingly awful, negative. Absolute tribe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 exclamation marks, positive. It's hard, it really is hard. Intuition. I would have done had you been investing huge amounts of money. I could say, stop spending money, start thinking about what you're going to do with it. But I'm not sure now. In conclusion, I am totally open to your questions. Please. Some of this may be relevant. If it's not, I'll answer questions on any topic you get. Yes, go ahead.
So it's actually similar to a question someone asked in the last vocab, but in the cultural sector around, certainly in the UK, probably just London actually, there are probably about 5 people employed in full-time digital analyst positions. There's one at the Tate, there's one at the Science Museum, Natural History Museum.
Science Museum kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they're trying to have experts in there's a couple more. So also there are benefits of that kind of job, and having that in that kind of organisation. If this is a kind of emerging thing, yes, and it's not a big thing, where would you suggest organisations start?
So let's take out the individual first. I'm an English graduate. Spent a lot of time at university, not to get a job, and came out of not wanting to go to English graduate. English graduate? Yeah. The big change is that the tools for doing this are becoming easier. The education is increasingly free, so learning how to do it is a lot easier. And so from the point of view of the individual, going from being somebody who, the maths students at my university had a joke about English students, it was something like how do you get 5 truly random numbers, and there was, and then we asked English students how to 10. And it's true, slightly, I was always thought myself as a numerate, and I've had to learn numeracy and learn that kind of literacy, it's been tremendously rewarding. So I think from the point of view of the individual, self-learning is clearly the right way. From the point of view of the institution, it is about, at this stage, encouraging those individuals. I don't think anyone's going to hire data scientists or analysts but the value of the individual to the organisation and the value of that individual in the marketplace are going through the roof these days. So it's worth it for both. Grow your own, find the person who's interested and encourage them, and give them a bit of budget. Not much. They don't really need much. They really don't need much. Most of the tools are free. Or short tools are free. So any other sort of anyone feeling sort of that they want to go out and scrape reviews of review websites? Really? You guys actually get reviews with stars and things. It's like, it's amazing. It's really good for you. You could build classifiers. You could begin to identify what topics are frequently mentioned. You could disappear down that rabbit hole, obviously.
Out of the early part of the conversations, quite often we already do qualitative research with our audiences, asking them for feedback or emailing them and asking them to do an email survey. So we tend to get information from sources that are possibly broader than just through social media, because social media is still only a very small proportion of our overall audiences who may well be wealthier, older, less digitally engaged people, and to just scrutinise social is actually skewing our look at our own audience.
I think that's true.
Just because it's there doesn't necessarily, as you said at the beginning, just because you can find these things, doesn't mean that they're important. So I think it's more useful to have your negative thing at the beginning about actually we shouldn't just report things because Twitter gives you the chance to.
So I would generally argue in favour of ignoring Twitter. It's really hard, but
I mean, you can say what's a popular post, but beyond that,
it's not. Exactly. That's your first argument, but it is. I mean, this whole thing of exposing librarians and school teachers. It's true that people are not. Don't always assume that social media use skews too young. It skews youngish, but not really young. The amount of time you spend trying to persuade clients that this is not a way to reach teenagers, because actually, much as they are on Facebook, that's not where they live. They live in Snapchat, and we're not going there. Their audiences are there, and you have your website audiences, and my father, who is barely on Facebook, is still able to use your website.